You ever watch $1 million dream turn into a mudslide on live TV? I did. And before you ask, no, it wasn't my dream, but I saw it coming from the first handshake, the first fake smile, the first time someone told me we're building the future here. Yeah, the future if the future means ignoring nature until it smacks you in the face with a wall of wet clay and shattered glass. But let me back up a sec. I grew up in the shadow of the Silver Bend Mountains. My parents' old place, 17 wild, stubborn acres hugging the slope, was less like a piece of land and more like an ornery friend, the kind that gives you just enough beauty to fall in love and just enough trouble to keep you humble. When Mom and Dad passed, and that deed slid across the lawyer's desk into my hands, it felt less like an inheritance and more like a dare. Take care of this, don't screw it up. Now I'm a geotechnical engineer by trade, one of those folks who actually reads the dirt before anyone starts pouring concrete. I spent half my life mapping out these hillsides, cataloging every little slip, every drainage vein, every patch of clay that looked at a rainstorm, and started plotting its escape. My name's still on some of those old county maps, probably scribbled in faded pencil back when I was young enough to think caution tape actually stopped anybody. I knew what I had, and I knew what it wasn't, namely a spot for a dense crowd of McMansions. So when I put 9 acres up for sale, I spelled it all out in writing. No dense builds, limited load, not suitable for anything heavier than a couple weekend cabins. I wrote warnings so plain even a real estate agent in a rush couldn't misinterpret them. Dropped the price too, just to keep out anyone with delusions of grandeur. For a while it worked. I met a string of hopeful folks, quiet retirees, off-grid types, a young couple dreaming about an alpaca farm. Then came the Summit Crest Homeowners Association and their queen bee, Karen Manders. If you've never met someone who could talk about sustainable luxury for 30 straight minutes without blinking, you haven't met Karen. Impeccable hair, smile like a switchblade. She swept in with words like harmony, eco-friendly living, and elevated community. Not a peep about soil, not a breath about risk. During our last meeting, I laid out everything: old USGS reports, color-coded hazard maps, even a hand-drawn note from when I was 12, and saw the hillside sag 3 feet after a thunderstorm. Karen barely glanced at them. "We're not looking for pessimism, Mr. Wells," she said. And I realized this woman thought optimism could cancel out gravity. But I did my part. She signed every disclosure, every clause about slope instability. Initialed next to my red letter warnings, confident as a surgeon like her pen could rewrite geology. When the deal closed, I tried to feel relief. Instead, I felt that old warning buzz in my gut, the one that always hit just before the earth started moving. 2 months later, on what should have been an ordinary supply run, I swung past the property line and caught the sound of heavy machinery, excavator teeth grinding into the mountain's ribs. I figured they were prepping for a couple small homes, just like I said. I was wrong. So wrong it made my teeth ache. They'd turned the slope into a war zone. Bulldozers, graders, mixers, a whole parade of steel crawling up and down, flattening shelves into the hillside. And there it was, a ribbon of fresh asphalt curling across the grade with no drainage, no retaining wall, just a pretty face for a sales brochure. 23 house lots staked out in orange flags. I watched in disbelief as the crew filled natural drainage lines with loose rock poured concrete straight onto muddy, shifting ground. No pilings, no soil nails, just budget and bravado. I did what any sane person would do. I tried to stop the train before it derailed. Left reports, sent emails, even certified a hard copy of my warnings to the Summit Crest Board. Their reply, a lawyer letter threatening to sue me for harassment and defamation. Apparently, telling the truth about dirt is now slander if it messes with their timeline. And the county permits approved by their own engineer. I asked for credentials and got a pamphlet about respecting the development process. Karen even wrote an op-ed in the local paper painting me as a bitter crank trying to sabotage their mountain oasis. I closed my laptop and shook my head. You can't win a shouting match with a megaphone and a checkbook. But you know who doesn't care about PR gravity? The first warning was a crack thin as a pencil line running right through the new pavement. I noticed it while walking the dog mug of coffee in hand. A week later, the crack had a family. Spider webs branching near the curb's lampposts, leaning like tired sentinels. The ground in its own way was clearing its throat. That's when I started talking to the new residents. No signs, no shouting, just quiet words, a USGS map, and a nod to the deck post already listing 6 degrees off level. One guy admitted he'd heard popping under his driveway. A woman said her garage door stuck every time it rained. Most listened, a few rolled their eyes, and the next day, the HOA plastered my photo on the gate with a "Do not engage, property value saboteur" warning. Honestly, I laughed. Not the happy kind of tired, here we go laugh. Then came the twist. One night an envelope appeared under my door. No name. Inside a redacted engineering report, an internal Summit Crest memo admitting the slope was unstable and calling for immediate action. Someone on the inside wanted the truth out. I posted it all online, scans, drone footage, the works. Within hours, social media lit up. Local hikers confirmed the new trails were already slumping. A fired city engineer recognized my photos. Karen. She lost it, accused me of fabricating evidence, flying illegal drones, being obsessed with her community. Sure, Karen. Then winter came, and with it the rain. I still had my old sensors set up on my property out of habit. Every downpour I watched the ground shift a little more, numbers creeping up. The mountain wasn't just groaning, now it was getting ready to yell. And yell it did. The storm hit like a truck at 2 in the morning rain, slamming so hard it rattled windows. My phone shrieked with an emergency alert. One of my tilt meters had tripped. I bolted for my truck, skidded up the muddy ridge, and watched 5 houses and a chunk of that scenic plaza vanish in a river of moving soil. 1 2-story home lights on slid like a toy down into darkness. Debris fences, swing sets, shingles spun by in the flood. I called 911, voice shaking, and sent up my drone to guide rescue crews through the chaos. People staggered out of the dark, some barefoot, some bleeding, all in shock. Karen appeared wild-eyed, mascara streaming, screaming, "You did this! You sold us a death trap!" I just stared at her, too tired for another round. "Karen, you signed every warning. You chose not to listen." She spun for the cameras, blaming me, blaming the county, blaming everyone but herself. Reporters swarmed like flies. Within hours, Summit Crest hit me with a $10 million lawsuit claiming I'd hidden defects. I'd never felt more like the villain in a story I wrote in red ink years ago. But this time I was ready. I set up shop outside my house with every document, every signature, every email trail. Reporters asked if I felt responsible. I showed them Karen's initials, the old maps, the original reports. Drone footage of workers pouring concrete on mud, ignoring every basic rule of slope stability. Public opinion shifted. Fast. The real break came when 2 fired engineers finally came forward. Over cold diner coffee, they showed me emails, directives from Karen to streamline their reports, cut unnecessary safety costs, and worst of all, signatures they'd never written. Their names were forged. That's not just stupid, that's a felony. I sent everything to the county, the state, FEMA. Suddenly, my driveway turned into a parking lot for government investigators. County, state, even feds all picking through the rubble, comparing paperwork, uncovering a record of shortcuts and flat-out lies. FEMA found Summit Crest had ignored a direct freeze order. The county attorney recovered deleted files showing Karen ordered safety recommendations removed. And the last nail, a construction worker's phone video, Karen yelling at the crew to pour concrete in the rain for the investors. "We don't have time for delays," she shrieked. "Internet gold." She tried to claim context. Nobody bought it. The investigation steamrolled forward. Karen was indicted for negligence, fraud, forgery, obstruction, you name it. The trial pure theater. Her lawyers called it an act of God. I took the stand, laid out the facts, watched the jury's eyes widen as evidence mounted, signed warnings, forged signatures, the FEMA freeze. Even the fired engineers testified. Karen's defense collapsed faster than her precious asphalt. Verdict guilty on every major count. The judge didn't mince words. 16 years, no parole banned from any development board for life. Summit Crest dissolved. The ruined homes, condemned residents pushed into federal disaster programs. And the land, my old 9 acres, officially declared unfit for building, just like I'd warned from day one. So do I feel vindicated? I don't know. Relief, maybe. Watching the mountain finally speak for itself. Well, there's a strange comfort in being proven right by mud and gravity. But it's not victory. It's a reminder that paperwork can lie. People can lie, ambition can shout down caution. But the land tells the truth. Every time. I still walk that ridge. I decided I'd never sell another inch of it. Not to a developer, not to a dreamer who thinks nature's just a line on a spreadsheet. Now I'm putting together a little program. Nothing fancy. Just a place to teach folks how to read a hillside, how to listen when the earth starts to whisper. If this story means anything, it's this: nature always gets the last word. The question is, will we ever learn to listen before it's too late? Now let me hear from you. What do you think was justice really served? Should people like Karen ever be allowed to touch another hillside? Or is this just the cost of chasing a dream with your eyes closed? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about what real justice looks like out here, where the land remembers everything.